Hey guys, Jill here. We are gonna go ahead and get started. As you guys are coming in, a couple things really quick. If you can hear me right now, go ahead and raise your hand. There's a little section that looks like a little hand. If you can hear me right now, can you raise your hand for me? Awesome, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and put those hands down. Second thing, if you can see my screen right now, can you go ahead and raise your hand? You can see my screen. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, cool. So next thing I need for you guys to do is down below in the question section of your go-to webinar control panel, there's a question section. That's where you guys are going to ask your questions. If you have them, I'm going to answer questions at the end. But I would like for you to write just a little hello there. Tell me what your name is and tell me where you are calling in from. So send me a little hello. Tell me what your name is and where you are watching this webinar from. I have an Instagram live going too. If you guys are on Instagram live, you can go ahead and tell me where you're from as well. We have Caroline from Colorado. Very cool. Hey, Caroline. We have Sarah from Winnipeg, which is in Canada. Awesome. We have Sharon from Ontario. We have a lot of Canadians. It's awesome. Another Canadian. We have Tony from Manitoba. Very cool. Kimberly from Nashville. Howdy. I'm Amy from Texas. Very cool. Wendy from Kansas City. Kim from New York City, very cool. Becky from Colorado. Laura from Colorado. Wendy from, oh, we already got Wendy. Jill, hey Jill. Nina here from Iowa, very cool. Melissa from North Carolina. Awesome. We have Amanda from Sydney, very cool. We have some New Zealand people in the house, some Sydney people. Ursula from New Zealand, very cool. Linda from Michigan. We have Nicole from Colorado. Cool. So if you guys are just coming on the call tonight, we have a lot of people signed up. So if you're just getting on the call, make sure you down below, say a little hello to me, tell me your name, tell me where you're calling in from. This is where you guys will ask your questions at the end. So I'm going to actually teach for quite a bit, and then we're going to do questions at the end. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and type them in, things that came up for you. We're going to talk a little bit about Metcon Monster. We're going to get right into some nutrition stuff. Cool. All right, you guys ready to get started? Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so tonight, obviously today is day one of Metcon Monster. Super pumped that you guys are here. So hopefully you understand how it's going. You've been following the hashtag on Instagram, hashtag Metcon Monster, and hashtag day one or day two or day whatever, but you're only hashtagging the days that you are exercising. So remember, it's 8 days, 8 workouts in 10 days. So we're only going to go to hashtag day 8. Yes, I want to know what workout you did. Yes, I want to know what your time was, what weight you used. I also want to know how it felt for you. So a lot of you guys mentioned that maybe you haven't exercised for a while, you're just getting back into it. Let me know how it feels. I know you're going to feel sore. I know you're going to feel probably frustrated a little bit. That's taking some time for you to maybe get back into the swing of things. All of that's totally normal, by the way. You know, it's January. A lot of us just are doing a little bit of a reset, a little bit of a refresh. Honestly, I've been taking it a little bit easier on the wine, so I totally get it. But the cool thing about this is we're going to talk about nutrition tonight. We're going to talk about nutrition from a standpoint of sustainability. So one of the things that I hate is when we start a new exercise program and we also feel like we have to completely overhaul our nutrition because we think it's not worth it. Quote, it's not worth it if we're not also changing up our nutrition and completely overhauling the way that we eat. And I get that. We're like, oh, I don't want to do this exercise program. We're not taking full advantage of it. And I totally get that. But what my goal is for you is to teach you some sustainable tools, not just ideas, right? We can toss around words like moderation and mindfulness and balance, but if we don't know how to implement those things, I love, obviously you guys know I'm a huge proponent of moderation, but the follow-up question is always, great, Jill, but how? Great, Jill, but how do we actually do that? And so we're going to teach you that tonight, because I want you to figure out a way to eat so that you can do it long term. So I'm going to share with you 4 simple tools tonight to start quitting looking for random diet programs and doing a lot of program jumping and start creating what will work for you long term. So quick overview of why should we even care about this stuff, right? Like nutrition overview, why should you even care? The bottom line is that 95% of people subscribe to an all or nothing approach. So quick show of hands, how many of you guys have ever gone on a diet? Quick show of hands, how many people have ever tried a diet? Awesome. I'm going to put those hands down. How many of you did your first diet before the age of 30? Put your hands up if you did a diet before the age of 30. Put your hands up if you have ever done a diet before the age of 20. You did your first diet before the age of 20. Put your hand up. Yeah. So there's probably at least a third of people. I'll tell you what, I did my very first diet when I was 21 years old, and I had spent the summer, this is the summer between my junior and senior year of college, and I spent it in Martha's Vineyard. And Martha's Vineyard was amazing. I had an opportunity to do an internship or go and spend the summer with my best friend on Martha's Vineyard. And I did. I went there, and we didn't exercise at all the whole time, and we drank a whole lot of Bud Light. We ate like hot dogs. And I remember saying to her, let's do the Atkins diet. Let's do the Atkins diet. That was really hot. This was like 1990. This is like maybe 2002, 2003. Let's do the Atkins diet. So we literally just ate cheese and ate hot dogs. And then, of course, like 10 beers a night. And it didn't work. No surprise there. But then I got back to school, and I had like gained about 10, 15 pounds over the summer. And I got back to school, and I did actually do the Atkins diet, the way that it's kind of set up. And I remember I lost weight really quickly. Because here's the thing, if you do a diet, chances are it's going to work for a certain amount of time. The very first time you ever did a diet, chances are it actually worked, right? Because your body wasn't used to some level of deprivation. Most of us then become addicted to that deprive, then binge, and deprive, then binge. So when I say all or nothing, what I mean is the mentality that I have to be perfect on my eating, and if I'm not, then I might as well not even bother. And that is such a trap, and most of us fall into that without even knowing it. And I spent my entire 20s doing that, meal plan after meal plan, diet after diet, and I love the feeling of starting a new diet. There's nothing better than getting your food ready, going to the grocery store, you got your food list, you got your meal plan. It feels so good because it feels like you're in control. The problem is we like looking for something more than we like actually doing something, right? So most of us have fallen into this all or nothing diet trap at some point in our life. It is driven by deprivation, but it's perpetuated by binging. What I mean by that, not binging like in the sense of, maybe like eating like 5,000 calories in a sitting, maybe that's you, but I mean overindulging. So the first time we diet is when we start to set ourselves up for that. So it's driven by deprivation. What I mean by that is chances are you probably didn't have all that much, many problems with eating before you did your first diet. I know I didn't. I was just, I ate a lot and I exercised a lot. And I remember not feeling super fazed by it, not even caring really much about like food at all. But the first time I did my diet was the first time I ever felt a sense of deprivation. I can't have these things. I can't have this. This is a list of stuff I can't have. And because these things started to be off limits, then I started to feel there was this illicitness associated with those foods. And so inevitably, whether it was 4 weeks later, 12 weeks later, 6 months later, I overindulged. At some point, there's this level of overindulgence, right? So what do we do when we overindulge? We go, oh my God, I blew it. I might as well eat whatever. And then at some point we go, well, I just need to rein it back in. I need to go back on a diet. And so because we had that overindulgence, we feel like we need to, quote, tighten up. And so that tightening up leads back to an eventual overindulgence, right? So we can't, deprivation is not benign. Deprivation is not benign. And so we have this kind of boomerang effect where we kind of maybe gain weight, we regain, then we go, I need to get on another diet, I need to do another, for me, it was I need to do another competition, etc. My brother Brandon is calling me, sorry. And something that we call metabolic compensation, that Jade Teta, you guys know Jade Teta, founder of Metabolic Effect, calls metabolic compensation. This is where our body goes, hey, I don't like being out of whack. This is when our metabolism slows down and all that kind of stuff, right? So the all or nothing ends up keeping us struggling. And it's just as much a psychological issue as it is an actual physiological issue, right? The psychological implications are things like food obsession, fear of food, like being scared to go out and be in a place that quote, you're not in control of your food, going to events, going to social gatherings, going around the holidays. The sense of earning your food, like, well, I need to actually earn this by burning as many calories as I possibly can, feelings of defeat, feelings of despair, feelings of perfectionism, right? These are all psychological implications that sometimes we just think is part of life. Like, if you're not always trying to lose 5 pounds, then something's wrong with you. I remember feeling like that too. It's funny, my mom and I laugh, but every single time I talk to her, I'm like, how are you? She's like, great, need to lose 5 pounds. It's like this constant mentality of like, I could lose weight. And a lot of times we don't even ask ourselves, like, why do we even care about that? Why is that a thing? We've just grown up in a dieting society, so much so that we start to just feel like if we're not constantly trying to lose weight, then maybe we're just, we're not staying on point, or we're really just going to eat with abandon, or we have this mentality of if we're not trying to lose weight, then we're just going to let it go. And that's just not the reality of what actually happens. So how do we start to break this cycle? We learn to be okay with never eating perfectly again. And this is really hard because when I first started talking about Moderation 365 back in like 2013, 2014, I had a lot of people saying to me, moderation doesn't feel hardcore enough. It doesn't feel good enough. Moderation feels like failure. Literally, people are saying moderation feels like failure. And I get that, but the cost of continuing to eat perfectly is that we might be able to for 30 days, 60 days. I was doing fitness competitions, right? I could do it for 3 months, 4 months. But the cost of that deprivation is always going to be an equal and opposite overindulgence. And so how can we not eat perfectly? Some of us might be cringing at that. How can we not eat perfectly but still have our pants zip right up, have our clothes still fit, have enough energy for our workouts, still feel fueled and things like that, right? My thing is this: being a little bit less perfect allows for us to be a little bit more consistent. So we're going to smooth out the highs and lows in our eating by being a little bit less perfect, so that we can learn to eat the same on Saturday that we do on Monday. And that's really the goal of this, right? So it smooths out these highs and lows in our eating. And we want this because it decreases our mental stress. It opens up so much more mental energy for other things. So if you're like me and you're like I used to be, food obsession was all I was thinking about constantly. What am I going to eat? What did I just eat? How many calories is that? How much protein have I had? I had these mental calculations going in my head all the time. And so really we're talking about sustainability and then higher compliance. When I feel like things aren't off limits, I feel like anything is available at any time, and I'm much more likely to eat healthy because I don't feel deprived. So higher compliance, when we can take a little bit of the edge off and not try to eat perfectly. One thing to remember, and this is key, is that meals do not happen in isolation. So what do I mean by that? Meals do not happen in isolation. So what you choose to eat for breakfast will impact what you choose to eat for lunch. And what you choose to eat for lunch will impact what you choose to eat for dinner. So for example, if I wake up and in the morning and I'm rested and my willpower is high, I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna have egg whites and some spinach and maybe a little bit of asparagus or something like that, right? Egg whites and spinach. Fine, healthy, lean protein, vegetables. I don't know about you, but I'm probably going to need a little something extra, but I might be able to get away with it because it's the first meal of the day. Then I'm going to get to lunch, and how am I going to feel based on eating egg whites and spinach for breakfast, arguably a good breakfast? When I get to lunch, am I going to feel more or less deprived? I'm probably going to feel like, you know what? I really want like a little bit of a cookie or something. I want something to take the edge off because I just need a little something. And then I'm going to have that. And at dinner, I'm going to be like, man, I just feel like a little bit deprived today. I need to eat like a little bit more. And so, for example, what you choose to eat in the morning, whether you decide to give yourself a little bit of satisfaction in the morning, will impact how satisfied you come into lunch. That's key. And also, what you decide to eat on Monday impacts what you will decide to eat the following weekend. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but listen to me. Listen to this example. Say if you're anything like I used to be, you'd get to the weekend and it was like Friday night, Thursday night even. Oh, I can relax now. It's getting to be the weekend. I'm exhausted from dieting so hard. I'm just going to reward myself from working so hard all week. Have a glass of wine, have dessert. Maybe I'm going to go out to dinner, have the bread basket, all this kind of stuff. Then Friday night, it was like all bets are off. I'm having whatever I want. All day Saturday, having whatever I want. Sunday, you start preparing for a super clean week ahead. So you start going, okay, I'm just going to get my food together. I get my meal plan. I'm going to the grocery store. I'm going to food prep on Sunday. But you also are like kind of eating the treats and stuff that's around because you're like, well, I need to get these out of the way because it's Sunday and I know tomorrow I'm starting from scratch. I'm starting with a clean slate. So I need to get all these out of there. So when we wake up Monday morning, what do? We start eating super tight, right? We're like, I'm perfect eating. But the problem is that we still feel deprived. So by the time we get to Friday, we feel deprived from a week of perfect dieting. And so my contention is, why not give yourself a little bit of something on a Monday, like a single glass of wine, like a couple squares of dark chocolate, like, some bacon with your breakfast, maybe even turkey bacon, something that feels a little bit more satisfying, a yolk or two, right? How do you give yourself a little bit of something on Saturday so that when you get to Friday, a little bit something on Monday so that on Tuesday you feel satisfied. Then you have a little something on Tuesday. Then when you get to Wednesday, you still feel satisfied. You give yourself a little bit of something on Wednesday. Thursday, have a little something. Friday comes around and you can take it or leave it because you're good. because you've been giving yourself what I call nutritional gimmies. You've been giving yourself this little nutritional relief throughout the week. So when you get to Friday, you feel more satisfied. You don't have to go off the rails. And so your meals do not happen in isolation. You have to remember that. So what I advocate is taking a preemptive approach. This is called preemptive cheats. Cheats, I know people don't really like that word. People are like, oh, it perpetuates like a cheat meal or a cheat day where you're doing something wrong. For me, preemptive cheats, it means whatever you want it to mean. It means like these little kind of nutritional gimmies that take the edge off. Things like a couple squares of chocolate, things like, you know, protein bars and protein shakes and nut butters. And like I said, bacon, maybe some cheese, you know, some charcuterie type meats, a glass of wine, cream in your coffee. These things are not totally bad for you, right? But we don't consider them to be on like a clean eating or a competition diet, but they're foods that help you take the edge off. To me, I feel way more satisfied if I have 2 strips of bacon with my eggs in the morning, or with my egg whites, or if I have some cheese on my salad or some cream in my coffee. These things are not going to totally turn you off. Yes, there are a few extra calories, but my contention is you're going to eat less calories total if you allow yourself these little nutritional relief points. So how do you start assessing this? My tool is called Satisfaction Factor. Hashtag Satisfaction Factor. And it's important to evaluate your meal on a scale from 1 to 10. So you're eating something and you're like, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, how satisfying is this meal? This is going to impact your craving. So for me, you want to get as close to a 10 as possible. And by the way, satisfaction isn't the same as stuffed, right? That's different. Satisfaction is like, I feel satisfied. I do not feel stuffed right now. The satisfaction of your meals, the satiation of your meals. Satiation is how full they make you feel. Things like protein, fiber, and water, right? These have implications for our hunger. So we're managing cravings, managing hunger by implementing these things. And then mindfulness. We're going to talk a lot about mindfulness more in a second, but mindfulness is feeling how you feel in the moment, going, how full am I right now? How hungry am I right now? Am I craving anything right now? This helps us surf the urge at times. If we notice that we're feeling scarcity around food, if we notice that we're having food FOMO, you guys know what that is, right? Food FOMO is like, ooh, it's the state fair and I don't want to miss the elephant ear, right? Or like, I need to have that because it's grandma's, you know, famous apple pie. I can't miss out on that, right? So a lot of us fall prey to these like FOMO moments, the fear of missing out on this like amazing, delicious thing, or even situational situational eating, like, because you're at the movies, you have to get popcorn. I'm not saying don't get popcorn. I'm just saying don't just get it because you're at the movies. Ask yourself, like, is that actually what I want right now? And if it's not, what do you want instead? Do you want to have, you know, maybe a protein bar, maybe there's a candy that you like? Be aware of that stuff. And mindfulness puts you in touch with your physical cues. Mindfulness is going, am I hungry right now? How satisfied do I feel? How full do I feel? And most of us don't even practice that, right? We either feel stuffed or starved. Most of us only know stuffed and starved. And what mindfulness does, it says, hey, there's like 10 steps between stuffed and starved. So there's like starving or stuffed, there's like 10 steps in between there. And we're allowed to go like, yeah, I could eat, or I could not eat. I could eat in 30 minutes, or I'm getting really hungry. I know I'm going to want to eat in about 30 minutes, right? That's mindfulness. Even just being able to put that into practice and even say that out loud. Don't be afraid to break the rules. So just because it's breakfast time, if you're not hungry, then you don't have to eat, right? Don't force yourself. Just because you just finished your workout doesn't mean you need to like down 30 grams of protein right away. You can surf it for a second and then just notice how you feel. And so I think that most of us have gone around collecting different nutrition rules. I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. People ask me about intermittent sampling, or intermittent fasting all the time. People ask me about keto, people ask about paleo. And the answer is always, if that works for you, based on your unique metabolism, your personal preferences, your schedule. Look, like if you don't really love fatty foods, don't do keto if you don't feel like you can do that. And so don't be afraid to break the rules and don't be afraid to question shit. All right, so we're going to get into the tools. I'll move through these pretty quick. There's 4 tools I want to teach you tonight. The first is moderation, or hashtag moderation 365. And it is essentially learning to eat the same on Saturday that you do on Monday. Wouldn't that be really nice? It'd be super nice to like, on a Saturday, I know a lot of us have like, maybe you go out to dinner on Saturday or we have a date night or something like that. Maybe you have a couple extra indulgences on Saturday, but it's not like the old days of just like binging and trying to eat as much as you possibly can on Saturday. I remember when I was competing, all these competitors, especially like even pro competitors, were like, Saturday's my cheat day, and they would literally stuff their face all day long up until like midnight on Saturday, because they knew that it was going to be off limits. So it was the last chance that they had to eat, right? So we want to eat the same on Monday that we do on Saturday. We don't want to binge on Saturday, but we also don't want to be super, super tight on Monday so that we have to actually binge on Saturday. So the goal is to never eat perfect, even if you can eat perfect. A lot of people say to me, well, I don't really need a couple squares of chocolate. I don't really need cheese on my salad. I'm fine without it. And I'm like, that's great, but why don't you just have a little bit of it? Because we're taking a preemptive approach. Even on Monday, a lot of times we wake up and on Monday we feel so disgusted from how we ate over the weekend that we want to eat super clean on Monday. And I get that. The reason why I even started eating moderation was because I noticed I was doing this week after week after week, the exact same thing. And I was like, I keep pretending like I'm going to be tighter every week and I keep not doing it. So this isn't working. So I had to figure out something else. So consistency will always be perfect when it comes to results. Honestly, I know it's really hard to think about, but keeping your eating, smoothing out those highs and lows in your eating is so much better, not only for you mentally, but it's a lot easier like physically, right? You don't have to be thinking about this stuff all the time. So 7 days of moderate eating for results will actually beat 4 days super tight and 3 days of binging. And when I say binging, I mean like overindulging, right? So 3 days of moderate eating will actually get you better results than 4 days of super tight eating and 3 days of overindulging. And so I know that's hard, but once you guys start to get there, you're like, okay, it's the most amazing feeling just having one size of clothes in your closet. It's the most amazing feeling. For years, I had everywhere from a size 4 to a size 10 or 12. And it's so nice to just have like 6s and 8s. And that's pretty much where I stay forever. And it's so nice to not have to like rotate my clothes in and out throughout the year. And so wouldn't it be nice to always just have one size of clothes that always just zip right up? It's really, really nice. You can train in certain ways, especially if you're doing something like Fast Physique or Metcon Monster, where your body might change as a result. It might change the way it looks as a result of the training that you're doing, but your eating is even Steven, which is really cool. So what tools can you use to start eating moderately? Navigating the middle, quote, navigate the middle every time you sit down. What that means is evaluate the satisfaction of that meal. Evaluate how satisfying the meal tastes. If it's not satisfying, you're like, you know what, I'm going to be like starving in a couple hours. Add a little something. Doesn't need to be add everything. It's just add a little something. So navigating the middle and going, am I satisfied? Or is this way too rich? And maybe I'll stop eating right now. Maybe I'll eat the rest later, right? So it's this balance between feeling starving and feeling stuffed. You want to find that balance. If you eat to the point of feeling stuffed, which I did almost every single meal, for years and years and years, I didn't know how to stop until I was stuffed. Now I can't remember the last time I felt stuffed into my clothes. It's been 5, 6 years. And so you want to find that balance between feeling starving and feeling stuffed. This requires mindfulness, asking questions. And we're going to talk about mindfulness in a second. I'm going to teach you how to do that because it feels like mindfulness. It just feels this like big esoteric idea that is really hard. I'm going to teach you how to do it. But asking questions like, how full am I? How satisfied do I feel? Should I eat now or could I wait a little bit? Should I stop eating now? Am I good? It's even having the prompt to even ask those questions. A lot of times we don't even ask those questions. If we did, we'd probably notice that like, I'm getting to full. I'm not stuffed yet, but I'm getting there. I could push this plate away and still feel good and still feel okay. Eating for satisfaction. So how unlikely am I to binge on more and worse crap later? That's why we take a preemptive approach. It's to prevent bigger and worse binges later. That's what preemptive cheating is all about. It's having these small nutritional gimmies strategically placed throughout the week so that you don't feel like you're going to binge on more and worse crap later. It's a preventative approach. You're taking the edge off, taking the edge off, taking the edge off, taking the edge off, and it's constant. And it's always just a way that over time, it's just how you eat. At the beginning, it's gonna be this thing where you're gonna have to practice it because it's not gonna feel intuitive to you because you're used to maybe all or nothing. It's not gonna feel good enough. It's not gonna feel perfect enough. It's not gonna feel strict enough. But over time, it's just the way that you start to eat. And again, just try, because the old way will always be there. There's always plenty of diets you can do. There's always plenty of ways you can deprive yourself later. And so I would encourage you to try something new. And just mentally strap in for at least 6 months and try to be resilient, right? That's a lot of what it comes down to, is just practice. Okay, so number one is moderation, and you practice that by navigating the middle and using satisfaction factor. The second tool is mindfulness. Second tool is mindfulness. Mindfulness slows down enough time for an assessment of things like, how full am I right now? And how satisfied do I feel? And will this food help me eat less later? Or will I want to eat more later? Or want to eat sugary, fatty, salty foods later? It's just slowing down time to ask for that assessment. Could I happily stop eating now? Am I good? Do I absolutely need or want to keep going? By the way, the answers to these questions are fine. Either way, yes, no, yes, no, I'm not full, I'm stuffed, I'm not stuffed. There's no, don't attach an emotional component to this. The answers are totally just clinical. This is just gathering data, right? So it's a low level of thinking all the time. It becomes automatic. At first, it's going to take some practice. So it's applicable as you're eating, but also later, right? If you do indulge, what happens? Get clinical. I think so many of us really get stressed when we overindulge. We beat ourselves up. We get super frustrated. Oh my God, I can't believe I did it again, right? It doesn't need to be that. In fact, the faster you can get clinical with evaluating, did I have enough protein? Was I skimping on vegetables? Have I not been sleeping? Am I about to get my period? Have I been super stressed out, right? There's a million reasons why you might overindulge. Am I not giving myself enough nutritional gimmies and preemptive cheats? And then you learn to move on faster when you use tools like self-compassion, objectivity, which is removing the emotion from it of I'm bad or I'm good based on my eating, and then become more resilient. And so the tools that you use to build your mindfulness is a couple things. The first is, okay, Jill, great, I hear you. And I know I should be asking myself, how full am I? But I'm out to a restaurant and I just don't notice. Or I'm eating and I'm at a family gathering and I just don't notice, and all of a sudden I need to open up my pants because I'm so stuffed. Most of us, again, don't have those little cues of how full am I? How satisfied do I feel? Could I keep eating? We're not asking that stuff. So how do you do that? Two things that I've used with clients. First is on your phone. You can set your alarm on your phone for every 3 hours throughout the day. And you won't have to do this for long, by the way. You could do this for maybe a week or two and you'll start to get in the habit. Every time your alarm on your phone goes off, every 3 hours, you just ask, how full am I right now? How hungry am I right now? That's it. How hungry am I? And how full am I? So no matter where you are, if you're eating, if you're not eating, doesn't matter. It's just for you to practice checking in with where your hunger and cravings are at. So you say, how hungry am I right now? And then you go, I could eat, or I'm getting pretty hungry. Maybe I'll eat in 30 minutes. Or it's literally just to prompt you to remember that stuff. So your phone going off every 3 hours throughout the day, maybe it goes off 3 or 4 times. And again, like I said, you're not gonna do this forever, because the cool thing about mindfulness is once you start practicing it, it becomes second nature pretty quickly. The second thing that I've used with clients is Post-it notes. So having Post-it notes around your house. So having little Post-it notes, on your, literally on your computer or on the wheel of your car or on your refrigerator, on your bathroom mirror that says, how hungry are you? How full are you? Could you eat? How are you craving anything? All this is doing is helping prompt you to ask yourself these questions in the moment. It's a super, super fast assessment. And the way that this works is over time, you start to just be checking in with those things. Whenever you're around food or people want to go out to eat or it's time for lunch, you're asking yourself, do I have to go to lunch because it's noon? Or should I go to lunch now because I'm hungry? You're starting to ask yourself things like that. You're starting to break the rules a little bit. You're not going oh, I eat every 3 hours, right? This is honestly, diets make us stupider. They just do, because they say, I need to be eating every 3 hours. We don't ask ourselves am I even hungry every 3 hours? I think if you notice, sometimes you're hungry before 3 hours and other times you're not hungry at 3 hours. And so ask yourself those questions. Why am I eating these foods? They don't sit well with me, but someone told me I should be having apple cider vinegar, but I can't stand it or it doesn't work. And so a lot of the stuff you have to start to ask yourself these questions. So the tools, eating to 80% fullness, this is tough. Eating to 80% fullness is tough because what's 80%? 80% is whatever you decide it is. For me, it is when you could eat more. When you could eat more, you're at 80%. So I'll give you guys an example. There's this restaurant here in LA called Cava. And I call it crack because it's so good. It does these big bowls of rice and greens and like all these different vegetables and whatever. It's a Mediterranean place, and I get it like literally every single day. And I call it cracks. It's so good. And I'm like, how could something that tastes this good be so healthy? And Danny J and I were laughing because it's about 5 bites too much. The bowl is huge, and it's like 5 bites too much. So we're like, oh, I wish this was like a little tiny bit smaller and we finish it off. But when we have the 5 bites, it's like a little bit, it like stuffs you, right? So I know when there's like 5 to 10 bites left, like that's when I'm going to put it in the fridge for later. I'll finish it up later. But it's funny, like, so evaluate yourself and start asking yourself those questions. Is this food like a little too much? Should I have stopped a little bit earlier? Eating to 80% fullness is when you could finish the bowl of kava. And believe me, I do sometimes. You could finish it, but you also don't have to. That's like 80% or you get to 90%, right? So it's objective. I mean, it's subjective. And then intermittent sampling is a tool that I use. Intermittent sampling is a way that I taught myself how to be able to taste anything without having to scarf it down. So today I made some peanut butter bars, some healthy peanut butter bars. If you guys go to jillfit.com and just search peanut butter bars, the recipe's on there. It's only 5 ingredients. I don't cook, you guys know that, but I do cook some healthy stuff every once in a while. And these, I have some semi-sweet chocolate chips sitting on my counter right now from earlier today, and they've just been sitting out. And I made a whole pan of peanut butter bars, and they'll probably last me like a whole week, maybe more. I have a couple people staying with me right now, because I'll just take bites of stuff. I'll just take like literally a couple of chocolate chips a couple times a day. But intermittent sampling is where you allow yourself to take bites of something and then put it away, and then come back to it in like maybe 20 or 30 minutes and have a little more. So I actually practice with protein bars. Protein bars are a healthy food. They're not a junk food in my mind. Some of them can be pretty junky, but for the most part, I think they're a healthy food. And so I've started just taking like a third of a protein bar and then putting it back in the cupboard. And by the way, you guys, like I said, this isn't junk food, but this is a way for me to practice. You can practice with any food. You can practice with nut butters, you can practice with nuts, you can practice with chocolate chips like I do. The key is using something that you like. And then I put the rest of the bar away in like maybe 30 minutes or so. I go and do something, I come back and I eat another third of the bar. And then I would like leave and do something else for a while. And by the way, I could eat the whole bar the whole time. That's fine, right? Like I could eat the whole thing of peanut butter bars, but I'm choosing to take a piece and then put it back, and then take a piece and put it back, and then take a piece and put it back. And that practice helps us stay more mindful. That's called intermittent sampling. There's a whole blog post on jillfit.com all about how to do it. I would encourage you guys to go and check that out. All right, third tool is abundance. Third tool is abundance mindset around food. One of the things that I've noticed, it is so funny to me. I love my mom, and I've told this story before, and she knows because I always tease her about it. She loves BOGO. You guys know what BOGO is? Buy one, get one. BOGO's hilarious. So if you go to a grocery store, it's like buy one, get one, whatever. And she'll come home with like random stuff like Dove chocolate bars, which I'm like, I didn't even know you ate those. And she's like, oh no, I don't, but they were BOGO. And I'm like, so let me get this straight. You spent money on something that you don't actually like, but because it was buy one, get one, you felt like you were getting a deal. And she was like, exactly. And so abundance around food are things like when we feel urgency around food, like we need to eat it all right now because it's going to be going away, or we have FOMO, like this is the best thing ever and I have to eat the whole thing or else I'm going to miss out on life, whatever that means. Situational eating. You're at the fair, you're at the movies, it's Christmas, it's the holidays, and you feel like if you don't indulge to the max, then you're going to miss out on some sort of amazing, time. And yes, there are plenty of times to have, pieces of food and things like that. I'm not saying not to have those things. I'm just saying when you do, ask yourself the question of like, do I really want this? Is this something that I absolutely love? Do you have to try every single dessert because you just do on principle, or because you just want to do you want to try the ones that you really like? Calorie matching. This is an interesting one. I dine out a lot because I don't cook. Calorie matching is when you're with a group of people, and because one person orders something, you feel like you have kind of permission to order that too. It's like maybe it's fries, or maybe it's like a dessert, or maybe it's like, but we're all on the same level of calories. So it's totally fine. Like ask yourself those questions. Just because someone else is having this doesn't mean that you have to. And then scarcity. What if there isn't enough food? We're going to so-and-so's house. Is there going to be enough food? Guess what? You can always run out and get more food later. And I think it's so funny because so many of us have this ingrained from when we were a child. Or I know, my ex-husband Jade, he was the youngest of 4 kids, and they were always like fighting over the last piece of pizza. And so a lot of us have these old mentalities of scarcity around food and urgency around food just built into how we operate around food, right? This desire to eat it all right now. I have to finish off this bag of cookies. I have to finish off this bag of chips. I need to get it out of the way as soon as possible. As soon as it's gone, then I don't have to stress about it anymore, right? I call this the Sunday night roundup. I did this for so many years where it was Sunday, so I knew in anticipation of Monday, I was going to be on a diet again. So I knew I was going to be deprived again. So in anticipation of the deprivation that I knew was coming, I would just eat everything that I wanted to on Sunday. I was just going to finish everything up. Sunday night roundup, let's just finish it all up because Monday morning, we're just going to have a clean slate. So can you see how if I feel like I can have something on Monday that I like to eat, that I don't feel the urgency on Sunday to eat everything, right? Because I know on Monday, like it's just another day. I can just like have a couple bites of whatever on Monday too. And so I think that it's perpetuated by the promise of deprivation that's getting ready to come. So a lot of this comes down to values and money and, not wanting to waste food. And I get that. There's plenty of things we can talk about in terms of like food wasting, but there's a lot of different places you can send that food. You can get better at buying the right amounts. You can get better at portion sizing. You can get better at, putting it back away in the fridge. You can get better at giving it to someone else. You can give it to your dog. You can give it to someone who needs a hot meal. It doesn't have to be like, well, I need to put it down my throat or else it's wasted. There's a lot of different ways that we can do that. And so a lot of this is just, again, ingrained in us. So tools to start breaking this habit. Number one is remember, this is just a mantra of mine when I was starting to learn moderation, there's always more where that came from. There's always more where that came from. It reminded me to have an abundance mindset, right? If I want more of the thing, I can just go get it. Any food is available to me anytime. Just because it's Halloween doesn't mean I have to eat all this candy. I can get a candy bar literally every single day that I want to, right? For most of us who are living in the States or living in a first world country, like we can get food anytime. And so it's always going to be available. So moderation 365 and that mentality makes it so that no foods are off limits. So we can resist the urge to tighten up, right? So no foods are ever going to be off limits. And when we know that, we go, okay, I don't need to eat it all right now. I need to have all of this stuff right now. I need to have this dessert. I can get a dessert anytime I want to. And it also helps you hone mindfulness when you're asking yourself those questions. So we have to unlearn a whole lot of this stuff. So notice when you're starting to feel urgency around food. If you are someone who has trouble sharing food, then that's something that we're talking about. We're talking about you have an urgency and a scarcity around food. I'll tell you guys a super funny story because this was like definitely a huge problem for me for such a long time. It's only been the last like 5 or 6 years. But one of the practices that I used with trying to learn moderation was sharing my food more. So I'd be out to dinner or I would have something that I was like super looking forward to eating. And I would be like, do you want a bite? Like hoping they would say no. But it was a good practice. Now I'm like sharing everything. But back then it was like, I almost hoped they would say no because this was my food. So I had this really ridiculous I call it Reese's Pieces ritual on Sunday nights where I would get like a frozen yogurt and I would stick a whole bunch of Reese's Pieces down into it. I'd mix it all up and it would be like this big ritual every Sunday. And I remember I would get like the perfect amount. Would come home and my husband at the time would be like, can I have some? And I would be like, you don't understand. This is my only treat. You eat whatever you want anytime. This is my only treat. And so I would be like so upset. And one day he reached over and took some of them, just like took a huge handful. And I legit started crying. And I'm so embarrassed to even share that with you guys. But it was so like traumatizing to me because it was like, that was my food. And that was something I was looking forward to. And I knew in that moment that I had a problem. I knew in that moment that I had a really big problem with food. I had a really big food obsession because there's no reason why I should be crying because someone I love is taking some of my food. It's like, of course, yes, let's share. And maybe that's not a trigger for you guys, but I've talked to a lot of people who have a really hard time sharing food. And so I think that when you notice yourself doing those kind of things, It's just to remind yourself that that's probably a little bit of an urgency, a little bit of a scarcity issue, and remind yourself that if I can always go get more Reese's Pieces, I really can. I can just go up the street and get some. And so it's a good reminder to us. All right. So the third tool was abundance, and the last one is DNCs, or daily nutritional commitments. DNCs, or daily nutritional commitments. And so these are super simple. These are basically 3 eating behaviors that you practice every day. And the reason why I picked 3 is because it reduces a sense of overwhelm. I'm not trying to tell you to do 100 things. I know when I was dieting pretty consistently, and I was dieting a lot for shows and really strictly, I had a million rules. I had to eat this many ounces of water, this many grams of protein, this many grams of carbs. I had to eat every 3 hours. I had to do this much cardio. I had to do this many minutes. I had to burn this many calories. I had to do this many steps. I was tracking so much stuff that I was constantly not only in a state of overwhelm, but I was completely obsessed. It was a full-time job. Thinking about food was a full-time job. And so here's the thing that we forget sometimes, that not all eating behaviors are weighed the same in terms of outcome. I'm going to say it again. Not all eating behaviors are weighed the same in terms of outcomes. If you've heard me give this talk before, or a talk like this, you understand what I'm talking about. So for example, things like having enough protein, having enough fibrous vegetables, maybe drinking enough water, maybe getting sleep, maybe managing your stress appropriately. These are what I would consider some big rocks. I don't know about you, but if I'm super stressed, I'm eating way more sugar. If I'm really sleep deprived, I'm eating way more sugar. I want to drink alcohol. And so managing these things are big dial movers. If I get enough protein, I feel satiated. I feel full. If I get enough fiber, I feel good. If I have some preemptive cheats, I feel satisfied. And so some of these things are big dial movers. Some things are not. Some things like, should I have Splenda or stevia? Like, look, stevia is healthier, but I don't want you to spend so much time stressing about that. Because yes, Splenda is not like super healthy and it might fuck up your gut or whatever, but it's not going to have a huge, massive impact on your hunger, energy, cravings, and the way your body looks and the way your body performs. It's just not going to. And so it doesn't mean you shouldn't think about that. It just means that's not as important as, did I get enough protein today? Am I eating enough protein? That's a much bigger dial mover. Or how much sodium is in my peanut butter? I don't know about you, Danny, but like this was something that I was constantly trying to get, like the lowest sodium salsa and the lowest sodium peanut butter. And it's like so silly because the difference is only like 60 milligrams or something like that. It's not going to have a huge impact on your performance. It's not going to have a huge impact on your physique. And yet sometimes you put a lot of mental energy into these tiny, tiny, tiny decisions. And so DNCs go, you know what? There's a whole bunch of choices, but I want you to pick 3 big ones that when you do them consistently, you stay pretty tight, 80% tight in your diet, pretty effortlessly. Right? So these things are unique to you. Everyone's going to have different DNCs. They're based on personal preference, schedule, your likes, your dislikes, your psychology, your unique metabolism. How does this food even do for me? Ask yourself those questions. If you're eating protein bars or protein shakes that you love, but you're breaking out and you have gas all the time, like that's something to notice. That is something to notice and find an alternative for. So your DNCs are going to be unique to you, and there are 3 behaviors. Of course, we're going to eat other stuff. I'll share with you mine in a second, but the DNCs take, like I said, take care of about 80% of your struggle, and you know that when you do them, you stay on track for the most part. These are big dial movers because not all nutrition decisions are weighed the same. Some are much bigger than others. So it leaves about 20% for troubleshooting. So your DNCs, they need to meet 3 criteria. The first is that they need to be enjoyable. So they need to be enjoyable. They need to be something that, like when you eat it, I don't know about you guys, but I have this protein shake that I make every morning, and it's like, it's a lot of ice and it's like a big like ice cream kind of thing, and I can eat it with a spoon and it tastes really good. It's like chocolate and peanut butter and stuff. And for me, that's really enjoyable. It's healthy, and I also look forward to it. So hopefully you look forward to some of the meals that you have in your diet that are, quote, healthy meals. The second is it needs to feel effortless. Chances are it's something you're already doing. You probably already have a ritual around it. You're probably already like it. It's something that works with your schedule, right? It's not something that's like a really huge inconvenience. And the third E is it needs to be effective. So effective eating for your goals. Is it giving you the energy that you need for your workouts? So we come back to Metcon Monster. One of the most important things with these workouts is you guys know these are intense. Yes, they are short, but they are also super intense. So you want to make sure that you're recovering properly You want to make sure that you are giving yourself enough protein and you're giving yourself enough, clean carbs, healthy fats, plenty of water. This stuff is important. I would definitely say keep your protein high and make sure you're taking enough calories, because we do not want you guys are training like an athlete. This is like athletic training, right? You're training like athletes. So we need to make sure that we're eating the right kind of foods in the right amounts. And so it needs to be effective for your goals. If you're starting to feel on day like 5, 6, 7 just totally drained, then you probably have to get your calories up a little bit, or you need to sleep more, you need to manage your stress better, you need to hydrate better. And so doing some clinical looking at that stuff is important. So your DNCs need to be enjoyable, they need to be effortless, and they also need to be effective for your goals. And you might say, okay, Jill, well, I want to lose 20 pounds. So how can I eat enjoyably and effortlessly and also lose 20 pounds? It is possible from a place of satisfaction. My goal for you would be like, probably effectiveness would come last, because if you don't like the way that you're eating, you're not going to be doing it for a long time. If it doesn't easily work into your schedule, you're not going to be doing it for a long time, right? So enjoyable and effortless come first, and then effective for your goals is the last thing, and it's usually the hardest thing to figure out. And then as for the rest, do your best. 3 big eating behaviors. So my 3 are very simple. Number 1, I get protein at every meal. And I don't say, like for protein, I don't say like how much protein. I just say, does this meal have protein or not? Does this meal have protein or not? That's it. And then the second thing that I do is I have 1 big ass salad a day. So I'm doing kava right now. But I make sure that I get as many vegetables as possible in that 1 salad, because if I don't get any other vegetables for the day, I know I probably got 5 or 6 servings in that salad. So for me, a BAS, or a big ass salad, once a day, even if I'm traveling, even if I'm at home, I'll go to Whole Foods, get something, make something, big ass salad. And then the third thing is I have protein bars on hand. So I'll have a protein bar in my bag, my purse, just on hand. And I'll usually have like half of a bar after each meal, probably have like a third or half of a bar off of each meal, because it's a little bit of chocolate, takes the edge off, makes you feel a little satisfied. So if I eat like 3 times a day and then I have a little of a third of a chocolate protein bar at the end of all those, to me, that's like, I like having that little bit of sweet. And so for me, it gives me that satisfaction, and it also helps me with some convenience options when I'm traveling or I'm out and about. And so what are your DNCs? If you guys don't know them, go ahead and take some time after this webinar and write them down. Your 3 DNCs are things, again, that you're probably already doing. They're enjoyable in some capacity, they're effortless, and they're also effective for your goals. Honestly, I would recommend having some sort of protein in there at some point. The reason why is because protein helps you maintain your muscle. It also helps, especially when you're doing these like really intense workouts with Metcon Monster. And also having muscle on your frame is so important as you get older as well. And so I would definitely say, and protein also helps you stay more satisfied and more satiated as you go throughout the day. Helps you energy balance throughout the day between meals. Okay, so quick review. Tool number 1 is moderation. The tool is satisfaction factor, and that balance between feeling stuffed and feeling satisfied. Remember, navigate the middle every time you sit down. Tool number 2 is mindfulness. Mindfulness, I love mindfulness. It is a practice. Eating to 80% fullness. Also, intermittent sampling. Tasting something, putting it back. Tasting something, putting it back. I know it's silly. You have the alarm on your phone. You have the Post-it notes around your house that help you check in. It's literally just asking, how hungry am I right now? And as soon as you guys start to get used to that, it becomes second nature. You don't have to do it forever. Third tool is abundance mindset. Reminding yourself that food is available at any time. Err on the side of less or no, and then stay mindful and assess. So what I mean by that is like, okay, I'm going to skip this thing, and then I'm going to watch. Am I feeling super deprived right now? Okay, if I am feeling super deprived, I know that I might overindulge later, so let me have a couple bites of something, right? So abundance mindset is, am I feeling at some point this food is going away? And I'm just going to remind myself that it's actually not going away, that no foods are really off limits if I can learn the intermittent sampling piece. Tool number 4 is daily nutritional commitments, or DNCs, enjoyable, effortless, effective, and then figure out what yours are going to be. And as for the rest, do your best. That's it. So you have 3 major things that you're doing daily. As for the rest, do your best. Okay, so a quick review. You don't do a program for 30 days, you eat forever. So this is important, you guys. If you're on the call right now, make sure you take a screenshot of this. Make sure you take a photo of this. You don't do a program for 30 days. You eat forever. You don't do a program for 30 days, you eat forever. This is super important. Remember this. Ask yourself, can I see myself eating this way forever? If the answer is no, we need to just increase the satisfaction of the way you're eating just a tiny bit. Not go completely off the rails, Don't make the mistake of saying, what the hell, and throwing your hands up and be like, well, if I can't be perfect, then why even bother? That's the stupidest thing. It's basically like getting a crack in your phone on your phone screen and then deciding the phone is useless, so throwing it on the ground and stomping it out. That's exactly what it's like if you fall off the wagon and you just go, well, why even bother? I already ruined it now. All or nothing mentality. So you don't do a program for 30 days, you eat forever. And so we got to figure this stuff out. Just to put this on your radar, you guys, so this is something that we're not talking about tonight necessarily, but practicing, if you want more practice in the nutrition stuff, you want more practice in the mindset stuff, you want more practice in the psychological stuff, the 52-week total training experience is getting ready to start again at the end of this month. So the TTE is a 52-week program. It's one of my signature programs. It's a super, super amazing program. Exercise, nutrition, and mindset. So it opens up January 19th for you guys. So again, just to get it on your mental calendar. Again, if it's not for you, totally cool. But I wanted for you guys to get this on your mental calendar. It is a 52-week exercise programming course. You're actually going to get the exact workouts to do for 52 whole weeks. It's a year-long program. There's going to be weekly video and email trainings on nutrition and mindset. So if you like this kind of stuff, I go way more into depth. There's like 3 whole modules on cravings and like 3 whole modules on hunger and stuff like that. It goes into this stuff way, way, way more in depth because, again, we have a whole year. So you get some trainings on that stuff every week for a full year. Over 50 full-length video workouts. When I say full-length, I mean like literally I'm actually personal training you in your ear the whole time. So it's really cool for at home and app for the gym. I'm super pumped to introduce this program to you guys again. I have not launched this program in a year and a half. It's one of my favorite programs. People always get the best results. But that is more to come. Stay tuned. Like I said, mental calendar, January 19th. I have not launched this in a year and a half. I don't know if I'm launching it again. I don't know when I'm going to launch it again, but I'm going to open it for a couple days for you guys. So that is coming. Make sure you have any questions for me. Go ahead and type them down below. If you guys are on Instagram, thanks for hanging out. We had a good group tonight. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and type them in the question section down below, and I'll go ahead and take those now. All right, let's see. Hi, hey Rose. Can't hear you. We're back. Some people said they're losing sound. Hopefully it came back. Hey Jill, Claudia from Seattle. Just want to wish you the best. Oh, hey Claudia, for 2018. It's good to hear your voice. Hope there's so much happiness in your future and continued success. Oh, thanks, girl. Claudia is amazing. She was an original Jill Fit lifestyler, 2012. Shout out. So good to see your face on here. Definitely love you and hope that you're doing well too. Thank you so much. All right, you guys, if you have any questions, I'm not seeing any questions. Thanks guys for hanging for an hour on Instagram Live. Very, very cool. Ginger says, will this be available for playback? Yes. If you are a part of Metcon Monster, you will get this recording. Sarah says, love all this. Thanks for you do. For the Metcons, what substitute can we use for burpees? I had shoulder surgery in May. All the push-ups are too much. Yeah, for sure. So also for your burpees, you guys, I would not do a push-up at the bottom. I know some people do a push-up at the bottom. I would literally just go down onto your chest. And that's still going to be some stuff on your shoulder, Sarah, so you might not be able to do that. For burpees, the reason why I have those in there is it's cardio. So it would just need to be a different type of cardio. So maybe you could do jump rope. If that's too much in your shoulder, you can do rowing, you can do sprints, you can do, so for example, I think like you could probably do 15 burpees in a minute. So just do the math. So if it calls for 30 burpees, that's probably 2 minutes of cardio. Good question. Alicia says, hey Jill, what protein bars do you recommend? Yeah, I use a bunch of different ones, to be honest. I use what's called the metabolic effect label rule. Let me go grab a protein bar and I'll share with you guys. Look, I won't have one that works with the rule. There's some Quest bars in here. Okay, so I do like Quest bars, but metabolic effect label rule, shout out M.E. Jade Tita. M.E. label rule says, take the total number of carbohydrate. And by the way, you guys, you can, if you go to just a supplement store, you go to Whole Foods, you're at a grocery store, you can look at the label on any protein bar and this will work. So you go to the total amount of carbohydrates. So this is a Quest bar. There's 22 grams. And then you're going to subtract the fiber and subtract the protein. So this one has 15 grams of fiber. Ooh, 15 grams of fiber. So 22 minus 15 is 7. And then I'm going to subtract the protein from that. and the protein is 20, so it's a negative 13. So negative numbers are the best, but it should be 10 or less. So this is negative 13. This is a good, I would say this is a good bar. But if it's 10 or less, then that's probably good. And the reason why is because you want to just look at the carbohydrate to protein ratio. There's low protein, high carb, you're going to get a little bit more of an insulin spike. You guys know that. That's like how we get diabetes. So it's just a way for the protein and the fiber and the total carb to be close enough that it doesn't have these huge spikes in your blood sugar. And so I like Quest. I also like Oat Mega. What else do I like? I like Think Thin bars. I like ones that have more, like preferentially have whey protein versus soy protein. So you may have to look at that stuff too. But you guys, if you're using the ME label rule, you can go ahead and check. But I use a lot of like random kind of ones. Good question. Ginger said, thanks. Nina asked about protein bars. Hopefully that answered your question, Nina. Kristen, hey Kristen, says, how does the TTE compare as far as workout frequency as compared to fast physique and tread lift? I've done both and absolutely love them. Okay, cool. If you've done both, Kristen, then you will love TTE because it's different. It's actually a lot different. The workouts are all 20 minutes. And except for some of the cardio is a little bit longer if you decide you want to do sprints or whatever. We have some sprint days. So I'm actually going to give you the programming too. The programming is anywhere from 3 days a week. It depends. Every month is different, just depending on what month of the year it is. Sometimes it's 3 days a week. Sometimes it is, I want to say 6 days a week at times too. So it just depends. I think a couple months, it's like 6 days a week. Again, it's always optional. If you can't make 6 days, you try 5. If you can't make 5, you do 4. But at a minimum, it's 3 days a week. So, and all the workouts are short and pretty intense. It's a lot about metabolic conditioning type stuff, but more weight training based. Cool. Sarah says she can do another cardio. Awesome. Kristen says, perfect. Thanks. Awesome. So I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and write them in. I'm going to take some questions on Instagram while we're here. Summer says, what's an ideal macro setup to get tighter abs? I don't do macros, Summer, so probably the best thing to do is to, I really like Mike Vacanti's work and I like Soe Lee's work on macros if that's something that you want to do. I'm not a huge fan of macros in general. I use, again, moderation, which is more of like an intuitive eating approach. So that might be something to look into, but I do like Mike Vacanti's work and Soe Lee. Someone said, Jill Fit Lifestyle, bring it back. Yeah, bring back the tanks. I was wearing my tank the other day. Christine says, thanks. Cool. Got to run, but great. Well, a couple people asked about protein bars. Cool. Let me see what other protein bars I got for you guys. Do you want any of Mary's Fit Bag? No. Okay. I don't have, okay, so I have a couple. So I like these ones. These are a lot of carbs. You guys, these are called Nugo, N-U-G-O. You can get these at Whole Foods. These are delicious. I eat half of these because they're actually pretty high cal, and the whole bar is actually 2 servings. So I eat half of these. And then I am a sucker for Atkins bars. You guys can get these at literally like Walgreens and stuff like that, at like Rite Aid. I do like Atkins. They do, a lot of them are sweetened with with Splenda, with sucralose. So if you guys are anti-sucralose, keep that in mind. I don't think it's a poison, but if you like it, I think do it. Protein powder. I use a lot of different ones. I use Quest. Quest I like because they're super low carb. So sometimes I just want to especially pre-workout, sometimes I'll do protein shake. By the way, you guys, if you're in Metcon Monster, I'm going to send you an email with some pre and post workout nutrition tools and tips. I'm not a huge fan of rules, so I don't say eat within 30 minutes, but I do like Quest. I do like Isogenics, and I like Organifi. And Organifi is a sponsor of the Best Life podcast. Go to Organifi.com and use The Best Life, all one word, to get 20% off. Just a little shout out. All right, cool. So that looks like it's it for questions. Thank you guys so much for being on. It was great to see your faces. And I'll make sure you guys have this recording. If you have any questions, of course, I'm going to talk about the total training experience as we get closer, but just put the 19th on your calendar, and it's going to be a super discount. I'm super pumped. I'm actually going to give you guys an awesome, awesome deal on it. Okay, that's it for me tonight. Have a great night. Thank you guys for being on. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.